So we stumbled at the starting line, but we finished relatively strong. Hello everyone, my name is Max Aaron James. This is a review of the movie Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, written by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, as well as Michael Gillio, and directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein. Stars Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Reggie Jean Page, Hugh Grant, Justice Smith, and Sophia Lillis. It is about an unlikely team or a band of misfits who go on an adventure or quest to retrieve a relic, and this gets them into trouble and creates some enemies along the way. The movie is inspired by the game Dungeons and Dragons. I believe it started off as a board game, ended up there are video games, comics, books, probably even a cartoon about it. There was a previous film that came out, and I do not think it got many good reviews. Fantasy dragon movies can be hit or miss, and considering this is not an all-star or superstar cast, and considering it is based off a board game like Dungeons and Dragons, this movie can be a risk, especially given the relatively big budget that it was given to make this movie. But I think it was a good investment, and I enjoy everyone that is starring in this movie, especially Justin Smith. I am rooting so hard for him. Now, the movie does start off a bit iffy, which made me nervous for the rest of the movie, even though even from the beginning it did feel like a movie that was meant for the big screen. The story-wise, it does stumble out the gate. With that said, considering what I was dealing with personally at the time, that could have kind of created this bias or take my mind out of the movie. But I will say it does start a bit slow and feels like they're trying to make sure to jump right into the stuff, but to do that they have to develop the characters and present you to who we will be following for most of the movie. Still, when the action does happen, and it happens more often as the movie progresses, it is a lot of fun and it keeps you intrigued. The choreography is really good, surprisingly good, and I have to give props to whoever did that. And saying surprisingly good may be seen as an insult towards the movie, or maybe it just shows how low standards I had for the movie, which again might be another insult. Still, this movie presented choreography that was not necessary for a movie like this. No matter how your expectations are for this movie going in, the choreography is really good. The fighting and action sequences were so good that at one point I wanted to clap during the end of a fight sequence. I ended up leaving that specific scene thinking, I am very impressed with what they did here. I really appreciate that they made sure to make the action sequences entertaining, fun, and still be able to build up suspense, and the visual effects are really good. Each character, for the most part, had their own motive. I would say maybe Justice Smith's character had the shortest end of the stick, but overall, when he was given an opportunity to lead, he does shine, and I did enjoy him. Overall, each character had their own reasons to do what they were doing and be involved in this adventure and have the same end goal. Michelle Rodriguez in this movie is a total badass. She has great fight scenes. One of the fight scenes you kind of see in the trailer, I wish they did not show as much in the trailer because kind of took away from that fight scene. And that scene is expected. You see it coming that they're setting up for that scene that you saw in the trailer. And she helps Chris Pine in carrying this movie. Which brings me to this. Chris Pine even being allowed to lead here has never seen me as someone who is able to carry a movie on his own or lead a film on his own. This ensemble cast, I felt all together were able to make this movie as entertaining and as fun as it is. And I was more interested in all the other side characters much more than his character. Now, there are reports that in telling the story, Pine's character was purposely emasculated, and which is weird to say. And if that were the case, if that is the case, why? It is possible to have representation of other people, specifically women, and to challenge patriarchal structures without emasculating men, depending on what that means to you or what that means specifically to the two directors. I do not know what they mean by that, and why they attempted to do that. I do not understand exactly what they were going for in emasculating someone in order to uplift or allow the women characters to lead or shine. Hugh Grant is in this movie, and he is fine as who he is. I think they were really lazy in writing his character. and maybe they were doing that on purpose considering their emasculation goal. He performed a much better a-hole in Operation Fortune, and his character is not very memorable. I think he was just there just for there to be there for the story's sake. Now, Reggie Jean Page, this is the only time I've actually seen him acting. This is the only performance I have seen from him, and he did really good. He was enjoyable. His character was interesting, although not too deeply developed, but he gives what he can and he delivers in the scenes that he is in. And so I was happy to see him here. He was fun, entertaining, also a badass. Sophia Lillis's character, similar to Justin Smith's, was okay. I felt that her character was not too developed, had a motive, had a goal, had kind of a backstory similar to Smith, and maybe written slightly better than Smith's, but I feel that they could have done more with that. It felt like they focused heavily on specific characters to develop their backstory and give them a personality. And then the rest of the characters, they felt that they were just going to throw something in there to say that they have a backstory. Although predictable, this movie is very fun and worth watching in theaters. Again, the visual effects are great. The fight scenes are really good. And again, I want to see those scenes again. It was a fun adventure. The predictability was fine because I enjoyed myself going on this adventure with these characters, seeing what they were doing and how they would get to the end goal and get to the end of this movie. What did you think about Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves? Please comment below and let me know. Till next time, y'all take care of each other, check up on one another, check up on yourself, and remember, potential has no limit.